I will say this, and I realized this, a few years back. I don't identify as a woman, right? I don't identify as one. I just am one because the biology is obvious. So I haven't necessarily consciously thought like I have to do this because oh, they're going to treat me like woman. It's just a fact of life for me. And I think that this new conversation about trans issues is making people feel like they picked a side or they have to pick a side. When I think before, this trans conversation, people would have never thought about quote unquote identifying as a man or a woman. They just like, yeah, this is what I am. And I think we're adding an extra layer of you have to now, think about this. And I think sometimes people think themselves into knots when if this kind of topic in this way wasn't kind of posed, they wouldn't even have answered that that question. That poll was getting people to answer is kind of it's making people actively identify as their biological sex when before they didn't have a distinction between that.
Hey, in case you didn't know, I wrote this totally kick-ass crime fiction novel, which also featured a debate on race and colonialism. One review describes it as fun and thought-provoking. You can get a copy on Amazon. The link is in the description below.
I mean, I've been listening to the conversation for a while, and I think you guys are presenting very good points, especially more pertaining to I guess, the clear, what I call it, linguistic distinction between, sex and gender. However, my premise of contention has to do more with what I feel about how the question was answered. Because I think the question posed to KTJ was one that was meant to elicit a personal subjective response. The lady that posed the question to her, anyways, wasn't asking for the definition, right? She wasn't asking for the definition of a woman. She was asking for a. So I kind of felt like the way the question was worded, KTJ could have, taken it as taken it wherever she wanted, but responded with a certain level of sincerity. And that was what I kind of felt was missing from that conversation. And it kind of became more political based answer. And for me, once politics starts getting into how things are perceived or defined, then it's kind of like, well, fine, I have to kind of take a step back. So in saying that, I'm looking at the dictionary definition of a woman. So I would read from the American Dictionary of the English Language, which defines one second here, which defines woman. It's the same word as femina. The Latin is written F for W. The plural as written seems to be women, but we pronounce it women, and so it ought to be written for it's from the Saxon wife man. However, I think this is kind of going to the denotative definition. The female of the human race grown to adult years. So even within this definition, I could see a obvious conflation between gender and sex. But I think the dictionary clarifies that because it goes the female of the human race grown to adult years. Okay. And then, when I bounce back to look at, okay, fine, how does it define female? It goes among animals, one of that sex which conceives and brings forth young. Among plants, that which produces fruits, and a nothing, a noting the sex which produces. So female basically means biology. That's kind of what I get from the definition of female, and then the social definition of woman. So I think you all have pretty much done that in terms of like pointing out the reason why it's important to clarify between uh, the definition as the social definition, woman, and the definition as biology. But I must also add that, in terms of the rank and file, I would offer that most, no, okay, I would offer, in my opinion, that a lot of people use both interchangeably. So to me, for example, or instance, a woman is a mature biological female. So that's my 2 cents.